As NFL players, as most polarizing and as popular as the NFL game is, and I've always been on record to say the Super Bowl should be a national holiday.
It is.
You know what I'm saying?
It is a national holiday.
The way people kind of gravitate and how it brings so many different people, cultures, religions, whatever together, and happiness, it should be a holiday, right? But, for me, football doesn't give you a face. We're masked athletes, right? And for so long, I was trying to step outside of the realm of, hey, I really love art. I really love Jean-Michel Basquiat, right? Which was one of the inspirations of me growing my hair the way I grew my hair.
Wow.
And it's like, I really love fashion. So when Cam's being caught wearing these exotic hats and all these different things, it's like, oh man, I would never wear that. But it's like, I'm trying to say to the world, like, these are the things that I'm into. NFL is a great establishment, NBA is a great establishment entity, but they're doing things that promotes them. And that's fair, right? But at the end of the day, the NFL, it's hard for people to kind of see when certain people walk in. Now, when Tom Brady walks in, oh man, that's, in some places he may be recognized as Giselle's husband, right? But in more places, in the US, I would say, he's Tom Brady. You know who Odell is. You know who... Right. Russell Wilson is, who Aaron Rodgers is, but what about Aaron Darnold? What about Von Miller? And not to say that they're not noticed, right? But at the same time, we have things that makes us human. And to this point, with me having kids, I'm more relatable as a father, as a black father, rather than as an NFL quarterback. And
I didn't know that that's amazing to me.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yes, sir.
And where does your fashion sense come from?
Church.
Born and raised in the church. So my father's a preacher, still is a preacher, oversees 5 different ministries. And growing up in church, I went to a Pentecostal church, which is, I didn't start watching NFL football until college, really. I mean, the Falcons had went to the NFC Championship, I think in 2004, but I wasn't really paying attention until everyday NFL football until I was up in age. I was more college, right? And growing up in church, my grandmother, even though the Bible says, come as you are, I wasn't walking in there with no flip-flops and no sandals or no socks and no gym shorts or whatever. We had to iron our clothes the night before. My dad taught me at an early age how to polish shoes. He taught me at an early age, certain things that it rolled over into my adult life in fashion, from tying ties, bow ties, lapel pins, pocket squares, belts, socks, no socks, things like that. And it just, I just felt comfortable with being in a business casual look or, business attire.
Do you pass that on to your kids now? Do they have snazzy outfits like you do and cool hats and things like that?
Snazzy? Cool hats? I don't know. But at the same time, I see differences in my children. And I'm able to see Kamitis in a different sense than I see Chosen. And Chosen is I dress them all completely different because they all have their own personalities. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's the biggest opponent that I've been trying to preach since day one when I walked into the NFL. It's like, be uniquely you. You know what I'm saying? And oftentimes we don't have opportunities to do that. So this is why this is my platform in Funky Friday, where I want to dive into your background. I want to dive into, what makes you tick, because you're diving into mine. And even if you didn't know certain things before, now you know and you can understand Cam Newton in a different space. And for me, as I'm dressing my children differently, and I know from the dressing, they start having their own personas and personalities kind of come to life. And even the people behind the scenes who are producers of the show, they're able to kind of see, man, Suge, who's Kamitis, he has his own personality, just like Sovereign Dior and things like that. And as they grow old, they start, walking into their greatness, walking into their uniqueness. And when I first came into the league, everybody was like, oh man, you got to be like Peyton Manning. Oh man, you got to be like Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Oh man, you got to be like this person, that person. And I'm like,
I'm different. I don't want to be that. But that doesn't make them better than me. That doesn't make me better than them. We all are completely different, and we attack the game in a different manner. And I don't think people were ready to embrace that. But now when I look around the league, you see Lamar Jacksons, the Kyler Murrays, the Dak Prescotts, the minority quarterbacks now, and I don't even think they're minority quarterbacks no more. They're majority quarterbacks, and now the Matt Ryans and the Matthew Staffords are the minority talent.
That's a great way of looking at it. I never thought of it like that.
Yeah.
Can I steal that sometime and use it on air?
Absolutely.
That's pretty good. I like that.
Absolutely. You know, when I came into the league, the only African-American quarterbacks that was still starting quarterbacks was Donovan McNabb,
Yeah.
Michael Vick. That's it.
Yeah, it's so what has changed? Is it become more accepted? Are people like what's changed? Why all of a sudden is it now the majority as opposed to the minority? What's the biggest difference?
The game's changed. And the game's changed where even Aaron Rodgers is not even, this drop back quarterback because he can and he has the capabilities to affect the game using his feet, which makes him a dual threat, right? And when you see a guy like Josh Allen, exceptional talent, that big, strong, but as accurate as a Patrick Mahomes. And now we're always looking for the new best thing or the new next thing. And with that, defenses have always been able to just run a man coverage, have 4 to 5 man pressures, and just throw off timing in the passing game. You do that now, if somebody takes the wrong passing lane, now the quarterback is the biggest weapon. It only takes Lamar Jackson one time to scramble for 32 yards, and then you will never see cover 2 man or cover 55 or cover 88, however you want to cut it and cook it. You will never see that in.
Is there one of these guys that you watch today that even you were impressed by? You say, man, this guy, he's special.
Man, first off, I'm gonna answer your question, and I'm gonna come back to that point you just said. As a fan of the game, I think it's multiple players that stand out to me. Number one, not being controversial by anything, I think Deshaun Watson is, if not the top 3 quarterbacks, just with his skill set and his talent. It's crazy what he's went through, and I hope everything works out. But when I see Josh Allen, right, and I see what Matthew Stafford was able to do with the talent that he had, it only validates, how and what he was for that skill set is rare. When he made the no look, kind of dig throw in the Super Bowl, like people, it just flashed past, and it was just like, hold on, wait, what? You didn't appreciate that until days after the Super Bowl, and you was like, damn, like he had that in his bag to do, but he's been doing that so long in Detroit, but he wasn't playing meaningful games. Let's just call a spade, right? When I see Patrick Mahomes, and Patrick has changed the game, he's the football Steph Curry, where he's like the flash in the frying pan that like everybody loves when you at like the Chinese steakhouse or the Benihana's, and you're like, oh, like, and you see these different athletes, and how dare we forget about Lamar, as if his skill set is not elite too. So I'm a person, man, that I'm a fan of everybody. And every time I sit up here and watch, Aaron Rodgers or even Tom Brady work, it's just like, how can you hate their greatness for what it is? And when you're talking about Super Bowls, when you're talking about wins, one thing that I've grown to understand about sports as a whole, as a football player and as an athlete, there's so many different determining factors of a football game that people don't kind of give the notion to or the respect to. Like, I need so much of my offensive line to help me so that I can be as great as I am as an athlete. So when you talk about Brady and his Super Bowl rings, when you're talking about the MVPs from Aaron Rodgers and things like that, he had an unbelievable supporting cast that allowed him to be who he was.
It's amazing. Again, I think back on my time covering the National Football League, and I remember when I was covering it, and John Elway, Jim Kelly, Dan Marino came in the same draft class, 1983. And when they were leaving the game, people wondered, well, who is going to carry the torch? Who's going to carry the mantle? And I would venture to tell you that the game today, with the quarterbacks in it, never has been in a better place with more great quarterback play than ever before in NFL history, all at once. There are so many great quarterbacks, so many great people at what they do.
Right.
And so the league is in a great spot
So
for that.
the franchise quarterback is in a great position for a lot of different franchises. Just to see what Joe Burrow has been able to do, you know what I'm saying? The swagginess that he got, I appreciate that.